Myself, Dr. Badruddin, Professor in the Department of Education, Khandelwal College of Management Science and Technology. Today, I am here to explain adjustment mechanisms. In today's lesson, I will explain what adjustment mechanisms are, what are the important characteristic features of adjustment mechanism, and also what are the common adjustment mechanisms. Now, come to what adjustment mechanisms are. Adjustment mechanism refers to the common mechanism used by the individual to defend himself. In each and every society, there are different types of persons. Some persons are fully satisfied with their lives, whereas there may be some person who experience frustration in their daily life. The frustrated person may react against the source of frustration in different ways. He may physically attack the source in order to reduce his mental tension, or he may distract the object of frustration. He may use withdrawal, fantasy, or stereotype to maintain the balance of his personality. There are some common ways by which the individual used to defend or escape from conflicts and frustration, which are known as defense or adjustment mechanisms. An adjustment mechanism may be defined as any habitual method of overcoming blocks, reaching goals, satisfying motives, relieving frustration, and maintaining equilibrium. Every individual uses his own mechanism to maintain the balance of his personality in the society. Now come to the characteristics of adjustment mechanism. The first and foremost characteristic of adjustment mechanism is it is having protective orientation. Adjustment mechanisms are almost used by all people. They are constructs which are inferred from the behavior of the individuals. They have protective orientation. All mechanisms are used to protect or enhance the person's self-esteem against dangers. They defend the person against anxiety and frustration. They increase satisfaction and help in the process of adjustment of the individual. Now come to the second important characteristic feature of adjustment mechanism. It is distortion of reality. Invariably, in all adjustment mechanisms, the individual distorts reality in one way or the other because the method of protecting against dangerous inner impulses or escaping from anxiety involves some kind of distortion of the conscious representation of the person's impulses. Now come to the another characteristics of adjustment mechanism. It is crippling the individual's functioning and development. The overall effect of adjustment mechanism is to cripple the individual's functioning and development through falsifying some aspects of his impulses so that he is deprived of accurate self knowledge as a basis for action. There is self deception underlying all mechanisms. We deny and disguise the real cause of our behavior in order to maintain the balance of our personality. Now come to some of the common mechanisms. The first and foremost adjustment mechanism is simple denial. The easiest way to maintain the balance of personality is to deny the fact which could create conflict in the mind. When children are busy in play activities and if parents call them, the children will say they heard nothing. In fact, what was said was not allowed to penetrate into their consciousness. In adults, the percentage of denial is higher than children. Adults are not always prepared to admit frankly failures in their daily life. Denial helps to postpone facing a problem or a failure. Now come to the another adjustment mechanism, that is aggression. The meanings of the word aggression have been interpreted in several ways. We call a vigorous person aggressive. A person who tries to gain something from others is also called aggressive. The person who tries to dominate is also called aggressive. Aggression is a typical adjustment used as an attempt to hurt or destroy the source of frustration. It may be classified into two broad categories. The first category is extra punitive responses, and the another category is intro punitive responses. In extra punitive responses, the individual aggressively attributes the frustration to external persons or things. It may be a physical attack upon the source of an obstacle. It may take the form of retaliation or revenge from the person in the form of verbal expression. It may be in the form of criticism against the person. Sometimes the individual fails to take any aggressive step against the person in authority who is the source of frustration. In such cases, aggression is shifted to inanimate objects or animals. The child beats his doll, the boy kicks the dog. Aggression tends to generalize from the original object to similar objects in the environment. Now come to the second type of aggressive response, that is intro-punitive response. Intro-punitive responses are those in which the individual aggressively attributes frustration to himself. Sometimes the person feels he himself is the source of frustration. He criticizes himself and may inflict physical punishment to himself. Now come to the another type of adjustment mechanism, that is compensation. Compensation adjustment mechanism refers to making up deficiency of one area of development in another area. It is the tendency of every person to make up deficiency of one trait or area of development in another area. When a person feels weak and fails in one area, he compensates in another field. He works hard to become strong and successful. Needs which are frustrated and unmet are gratified in order to release tension and conflict. The person may compensate in the area of biological, psychological, and social weaknesses. The students who do poorly in schoolwork compensate in non academic activities. The boy who is weak in English may compensate in Hindi. There are 5 types of compensation. The first type of compensation is direct compensation. It is the process when an individual removes his specific weakness and frustration in the same field by unusual efforts. The boy who is weak in English is compensating directly when he tries to become strong by hard labor in the same field. The second type of compensation is overcompensation. It is the process when an individual molds his outstanding weakness into an outstanding strength. The third type of compensation is substitute compensation. When an individual finds himself weak in one area and sees no scope for improvement in that area, he attempts to become outstanding in another area. A weak student may compensate by becoming an outstanding athlete. Now come to fourth type of compensation, that is indirect compensation. Most of the compensation is indirect. A boy may steal things to compensate for being humiliated by his parents. A weak student who is poor in academic achievement may compensate in games. The most common form of indirect compensation is sought by parents through their children. The father who wanted to be an engineer but failed enjoys his son's success as an engineer. This compensatory mechanism used by parents sometimes pushes children into unsuitable programs. The fifth type of compensation is neurotic compensation. This process is used by an individual when normal compensatory mechanism fails. The mentally weak student attempts to get first division, but his ability is not equal to it. He fails in his attempt again and again. He develops neurotic compensation. He falls ill and develops symptoms, stays at home, and becomes the center of attention of the members of his family. Now come to the another adjustment mechanism, that is sublimation. It is a substitute reaction which may be classified as compensation. Among all the mental mechanisms of defense, sublimation is the most advanced, highly developed, and a constructive mechanism. Through the use of its operation, the energy of personally or socially intolerable impulses and drives is successfully directed into consciously acceptable channels. Their direction and aim thus become deflected, and redirected toward substitute goals. Sublimation has been defined as a major mental mechanism operating outside and beyond conscious awareness through which instinctual drives which are consciously unacceptable or blocked and unobtainable are diverted so as to secure their disguised external expression and utilization in channels of personal and social acceptability. Now come to the another adjustment mechanism, that is identification. Identification may be defined as a mental mechanism operating outside and beyond conscious awareness through which an individual is in varying degree makes himself like someone else. He identifies himself with another person. This results in the unconscious taking over and transfer to oneself of various elements of other. Such elements may include thoughts, tasks, behavior mechanism or character traits and emotional feelings. Now come to the another adjustment mechanism, that is projection. It is the most common adjustment mechanism which is used by all people in daily life. Freud used projection as a process by which we ascribe to the external world the rejected impulses of the id. We defend ourselves against our repressed guilt feelings by projecting them into other things and people. It is a mechanism which relieves frustration of the individual. When projection is used too frequently, it indicates symptoms of mental ill health. The most extreme form of projection is a central quality of the psychosis known as paranoia, in which the patient experiences a delusion. Projection in provides unsatisfactory solution to frustration and can cause harm to the person because it involves distorting an important part of the world. Now come to the another adjustment mechanism, that is rationalization. Rationalization has been defined as a mechanism by which the individual justifies his beliefs and actions by giving reasons other than those which activated or motivated him. Rationalization is the most popular adjustment mechanism which is used almost by all persons in daily life. It is a response to reality that falsifies circumstances. The aim of rationalization is to lessen frustration by giving sound and worthy reasons for an action which is frustrating. Now see, all these are the adjustment mechanisms which are used by almost all the individuals in order to maintain the balance of their personalities. We should be very careful while using adjustment mechanism. Adjustment mechanism should not be used as daily habits. These should be used very carefully whenever needed.